Welcome back, everyone. Is here, and today I've got some r/am I the asshole filtered for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the post, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. So real quick, because I forgot to explain this except for a pinned comment in the previous episode, Am I the Asshole filter is basically a double moderated Am I the Asshole, and pretty much posts that are almost guaranteed to not be spam or rage bait are the ones that make it through. It also has the handy dandy little function of telling us what all the comments actually were and giving us a percentage total of how people felt about it. It's basically just extra quality control, and I'm a big fan of that. Am I the asshole for considering going to an NFL football game on Christmas Day? I'm getting mixed reactions from people in my life, but would love to know if I'm just plain wrong for considering this. I, 34 female, am a diehard, like the star is tattooed on me Dallas Cowboys fan. Yes, please drag me, I need Jerry to go somewhere, but I love this team for life. My best friend's family got suites at FedEx Field every other season, but because they think they're good now, they've been buying them more frequent. My husband doesn't have a team and follows players instead, but does enjoy and watches with me due to my passion for the game. Last year, I was invited to join my friend and his family for a game in the suite, but instead gave the spot to my husband. He had never been to a game before, and I wanted him to experience this, especially in a suite. He had a wonderful time and thanked me profusely for letting him go. I was happy to give this to him and spent the day at home with the kiddos. Fast forward to now, my best friend got married and made me his best woman. His gift to me, as a thank you for everything, is suite tickets to Dallas versus the team on Christmas Day. I immediately asked my husband, and to my surprise, he got upset, like full on said, "How could you consider going? This is a family day and I would never do this." I tried to compromise and bring up our current Christmas traditions. My mom's side of the family is from Eastern Europe and we typically celebrate on Christmas Eve. I told my husband that we can celebrate on Christmas Eve and would still do the morning wake up with the kids, 8, 7, and 2.5, with breakfast and opening presents. I also told him that normally kids are playing with their toys after their initial wake up and will be zoned out for the rest of the day. Plus, my daughters would spend the afternoon with their mom to see her side of the family. He told me to do whatever the hell I want and walked away from me. I chatted with my parents and they're 50-50 on it, but understand my desire to go because this isn't an opportunity that comes around often, if at all. So, am I the asshole? Edit to add, we were both offered the tickets and when he saw the date, he said, "Thanks, but no, it's Christmas Day." So the judgment distribution on this post was 51% saying not the asshole, 32% saying you are the asshole, 5% saying no assholes here, 5% saying everyone sucks here, 3% asking for info, and 1% saying you would be the asshole if you did do this. So, I think this really just depends on how people view Christmas and family traditions. Some people enjoy going to movies on Christmas Day. Some people enjoy going to football games Christmas Day. Some people have plans that are a bit out of the ordinary on Christmas. And this would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And I feel if both parties are accepting of it, then it would be okay to go to that football game. They already have babysitting plans put in place, so there wouldn't be any issue with the kids, and they would be able to have a unique and once-in-a-lifetime Christmas that would make the wife extremely happy. And by the sounds of it, it wouldn't even interfere with usual Christmas festivities. Kids will wake up, have their Christmas morning, have their presents, things will be good, they'll play with their toys, be exhausted, then, hang out with grandma and grandpa or something along those lines while the parents go and have a unique Christmas. I think that's a totally reasonable thing in my opinion. And also, in my opinion, as a kid, I would love to have a couple hours of unsupervised Christmas time to play with my stuff where my parents couldn't interrupt me or force me to go to family events. They're gone for 5 hours for a football game? Hell yeah! All those fucking Lego sets are being built and you can't stop me because you're gone! But this is also coming entirely from my perspective. I'm seeing it as both the kid who would be experiencing Christmas and wasn't able to actively play with a lot of the things that I would receive as a kid because of family events, so kind of felt like, yay, I get all this cool stuff but can't play with it until tomorrow because of all the family stuff going on. Woo! And I'm also seeing it as the fact of they're still participating in usual family traditions, but just have this extra little benefit once-in-a-lifetime thing. Like, go look up what suite tickets are for football. Like, go look that up. I'm not really a football fan. My family is diehard Denver Broncos, but if I was offered suite tickets to a Denver game, I don't care what the hell I'm doing that day. I'm going to that because that's an awesome experience. Am I the asshole for being upset that my husband spends so much time on his hobbies when we have 2 little kids? My husband, 38 male, and I, 37 female, have 2 young kids, 2 female, 4 male. The issue we've been fighting about lately is how much time each of us gets for our hobbies and personal time. Over the past 5 weekends, he spent 4 half or full weekend days doing something related to fishing or hunting. He's also going on a 4-day deer hunting trip in a few weekends. In July, he went on a week-long fishing trip in Canada, Saturday to Saturday. Throughout the rest of the year, he goes fishing for a full day once a month. He uses a lot of his paid time off for this, which means I will have to take care of the kids solo over winter break. Meanwhile, my hobbies are a workout class 1 to 2 times a month and a monthly book club, which is usually a weekday night. I also work a demanding job and travel for work, so I already feel guilty being away. To me, that's a lot of time, especially when I'm home with one or both kids. Sometimes he'll bring my son fishing with him, but even then, he's gone all day, which means that we don't get to have much of a fun weekend doing family stuff. When I brought this up, he got really defensive and said, I don't want him to do things he likes, and that he doesn't get enough time for himself. But from my perspective, it feels like he has plenty, and his expectations are too high for how much time you get to spend on yourself as a parent of young kids. So, am I the asshole for asking my husband to scale back a bit on his hobbies? If not, give me some suggestions for new hobbies that will take me out of the house for full days, smiley face. Edit to add, many questions around how much I travel. I have scaled back my travel since having kids and usually go on 3 trips a month. But I try and make them day trips even though they are grueling for me. So, in an average month, I'm gone maybe 4 to 5 days and 1 overnight. He also travels for work every month and is gone 3 to 4 days. We both took big international trips this year for work. So yes, he has a slightly higher burden, but it's not one-sided. And in terms of going with him, he doesn't want to bring our 2-year-old fishing on his boat, so I have to stay home with her. We do all go fishing as a family at local lakes fairly frequently. So the final verdict was not enough info, and the comment distribution was 60% saying not the asshole. Wait, what the fuck? How is that the final verdict of not enough info? God, the judgment bot's broken. You're the asshole was 22%, 8% were asking for info, 5% said no assholes here, and 2% said everyone sucks here. So in my opinion, when you're dealing with a situation like this, when you're dealing with 2 people who have pretty full workloads and they're trying to manage their time, and the husband wants to have his hobbies and so does the wife, or OP in that matter, they're trying to just figure out how they can distribute their time and still enjoy existing. But the problem is you don't want one person to end up being in the boat of having all the burdens of responsibility for childcare while the other gets to have all the fun, which seems to be happening here. In my opinion, the easiest solution would be to pop out that old Excel spreadsheet, make yourself a good old calendar, and mark down what days were spent and how. How are days distributed between each person between work, childcare, and hobbies? And create a pretty extensive chart for at least 1 month or perhaps even more time. Yes, that does mean you'll have to kind of gruel through it for a little bit, but once you have the data, you can show that. There's no arguing it. There's no conversation about whether or not his, time being spent away is being over-dramatized or misinterpreted. You have it right there. It's grafted in front of him. And potentially, it could just be a really good reality check. He may not see how much time he's spending away from the kids and might genuinely think that his time is being well spent and he is being responsible, but doesn't realize the strain and stress. And this is, of course, being pretty generous on my end, giving a lot of benefit of the doubt. But if this is the circumstance and this is the case, well then you have a way to show him that he is wrong and he is spending too much time with his hobbies and he does need to participate in childcare more. But I can also understand how frustrating the answer of, yeah, just deal with this for 1 more month to create data to prove him wrong instead of actually having a conversation with him about it. So I can understand why that may not be an attractive solution to some. But if this conversation has occurred and he doesn't seem amicable towards it, then this could be a way to enlighten him as to where his shortfallings are. But of course, in case it's not clear, I do feel the wife is not the asshole in this situation. She's just got to find a way to communicate with her husband because he might be just completely blind to the fact that he is kind of being a bastard right now. Am I the asshole for parking whenever a spot is open in my complex, even after my neighbor confronted me? So, I moved about 3 months ago, and everything has been great until this past week. It's a little townhome community where there is a parking lot in the middle surrounded by the 4 wide townhome buildings with one entrance and exit road and one side not lined with homes. When moving, I specifically asked about parking because my household would have 3 cars. We were told there are way more spots than townhomes, no limits on cars, and no assigned spots. Since moving in, my household has rotated parking spots to wherever one is open. Sometimes there's one right at our door, sometimes all the way across the lot, or sometimes in one of the side spaces behind other buildings in the complex. With the way the parking lot is set up, there is not a situation where each unit has a space right at their door. There are multiple units that don't have a spot in front because they are on the corners. Just this past week, one of the neighbors pulled up, long honking after dark, and when I went to look out the window, started yelling at me for parking in the spots at the back of my unit. I kept my voice at normal volume and explained there's no assigned parking and I park wherever spot is open, even far in the back sometimes, and she continued to yell. From what I gathered, she was mad that my wife's car was parked next to mine because we were taking up all the closed spaces and park there all the time. I'll admit the cars hadn't moved over the weekend because one is my work truck, but as I said, we constantly park wherever there is open space. I closed my door and did not move a car for her. I brushed off that encounter after talking to other neighbors and hearing she is constantly trying to direct neighbors into other parking spots even before I moved in. But another encounter happened today. This time, it was different neighbors from the farther perpendicular building. I had parked on that row because there were no spots in front of my building like multiple times before. A couple I had never seen before came and knocked on my door, told me I parked in the spot on their lease, and confirmed it was my car by saying the make and model. I explained I was told there were no assigned spots when I moved in, and the couple mentioned the confrontation I had with their neighbor. I was confused because they are multiple units apart about parking before. I moved my car for them because they were actually calm and semi-polite, but I am annoyed. I guess I just want outside opinions if I am the asshole or the first neighbor is. Am I wrong for parking 2 cars in front of my unit? Am I wrong for parking behind someone else's unit? Where else do I park? Ask away with clarification below. I really paraphrased. Too long didn't read. Am I the asshole for parking in whatever spot is open in my complex with no assigned parking? Whether that's 2 cars next to each other, close to my unit, or near someone else's unit? The final verdict was not the asshole, with the common distribution being not the asshole as 60%, you're the asshole as 20%, info as 11%, no assholes here is 4%, and everyone sucks here at 2%. In my opinion, I don't think OP's the asshole. I think if he wants to be neighborly, he could maybe park his least used vehicle, like in some of the further parking spots. But that's really him going out of his way to convenience others who may not do the same thing for him. If there truly aren't any leases on the parking spaces and it's just an absolute free-for-all and there are more parking spaces than there are units, then it sounds like people are just making mountains out of molehills and just inconvenienced by the parking system that you've been dealing with without complaint. The person who decided to pull up to your unit and just long honk because you had 2 cars parked in front of your unit, yeah, they're an asshole, without a doubt. For the other couple, however, it might be worth asking them about the lease they have in their parking spaces that they claim they have, and see how they potentially got them and whether or not you can get one. Because either you get yourself some nice leased parking spaces, or they find out that they don't actually have a lease in the parking spaces, and you get a nice little victory lap there. Am I the asshole for my reaction upon learning the details of my sister-in-law's divorce settlement? My wife's sister, Anne, 39 female, has been married to her husband, Barry, 40-ish, for about 15 years. They have 3 kids together. Anne works a high-profile job at an international company. Her job requires her to travel a lot, sometimes for weeks at a time. Barry works full-time as well, but he has a work-from-home job which allows him to take care of their kids. Anne's job pays well enough that they can hire out stuff like house cleaning and yard care to take some of the load off of Barry when Anne is out of town. I'm not incredibly close with Barry, but he's a good dude and our kids get along great together. He used to bring the kids over to our house all the time to have them play together, but over the past year or so, that has happened less and less often. About 4 months ago, I found out why. My wife told me that Barry was filing for divorce from Anne. Last week, Anne came over to our house to visit. My wife asked if I could take the kids out of the house so she and Anne could talk, which I agreed to. When I got home, Anne was still there, and it was clear that their conversation got very emotional. I gave Anna a hug and told her I loved her before she left. My wife filled me in on some of the details later that night. Apparently, the divorce proceedings were pretty bitter. I won't go into the nitty-gritty, but Barry ended up getting primary custody, child support, alimony, and the house. Anne is in shock, heartbroken, angry, and doesn't understand how any of this happened. I told my wife that this is a crappy situation and I feel bad for everyone involved, but that Anne probably shouldn't be surprised about the outcome, considering that she hasn't been a very present wife or mother due to her job keeping her away from home so often. This pissed my wife off, and she went on me for acting like any of this is fair to her sister. I told her that it's not about fairness, just that Anne should be able to look in the mirror and admit that Barry has been more present in their kids' lives than she has. My wife continued defending Anne by saying that she was working to provide for her family. I agreed with her, but stated that there is a cost to having that kind of job, and Anne is paying that price right now. My wife accused me of taking Barry's side, and I told her that I'm not taking anyone's side. The whole situation sucks, and I feel bad for everyone, especially the kids because they're innocent in all this. I told her I would feel the exact same way if the roles were reversed and Barry had a job that kept him from home so much. My wife again asked me if I think the divorce was fair, and I told her I just think it sucks and it's sad. I told her that I wouldn't wish that situation on anyone, and that we should be giving all of them love and grace instead of judgment about fairness. My wife told me I'm being an asshole about this. I understand my wife has a sibling obligation to look out for her sister, but I feel my response was level-headed and not taking sides. The final judgment was no assholes here, with 47% saying not the asshole, 37% saying you're the asshole, 13% saying no assholes here, 1% asking for more info, and 0% saying everyone sucks. Top comment from Tanuki07. No assholes here. You're not an asshole, but how did you not see this coming? Your wife just had a long emotional convo with her sister and then vented to you about it. She wasn't looking for a rational response or analysis of the situation. She was looking to vent. You're not wrong, but you weren't smart about it either. I would be very interested to hear people's opinions on this one, because this is very much a buddy, read the room situation. I did see a comment below about how this might be a fake post because of how quick the proceedings went, which I did see the 4 months and thought, wow, yeah, 4 months is pretty quick, but no, he used to bring the kids over to our house all the time and have them play together, but over the past year or so, that has happened less and less often. About 4 months ago, I found out why. So the divorce proceedings could be happening for anywhere from just shy of a year to more than a year, and that does add up at least. But I think no matter what, Buddy just definitely did not read the room properly, and whether or not that makes him an asshole in your eyes, I think just comes down to personal opinion. But feel free to share that in the comments. How do you feel about this one? Am I the asshole for calling out my neighbor for neglecting to keep her kids off my property? For context, I, 21 female, have been living in my home for close to 18 years. My neighbors moved in about 14 years ago, and it was, at the beginning, peaceful between us. However, about 8 years ago, my family and I noticed a strange plant growing in our backyard when changing out the screen windows for storm windows that fall. Naturally, my family called the police because marijuana was illegal in my state at the time, and he was arrested for it and was released about a month later. Since then, it has been downhill with conflict between him and my father, who was only trying to protect his daughters from an, at the time, illegal substance. Now, to the property issue. About 2 years ago, the empty lot beside my house was up for sale, and my landlord purchased it and attached it to my property, with strict rules that no other kids except my sisters and I could play there. Reason being, he didn't want the neighborhood kids causing any damage to the home or end up getting injured on the property. Naturally, he also didn't want us or himself to be held responsible for any injuries acquired. For the last couple of years, my next-door neighbor lets her kids play on our property, and every time getting told by either me or my father to stay off our property, even to the point of involving the landlord and or the city police of numerous occasions. Well, yesterday, it was the same as always. The kids playing on our property, my father this time asking them to get off our property and getting the "I don't know" from the kids. Kids start smart-mouthing when they're told that they've been told every year since the lot became ours. Their mother pipes in with her own choice words, and the kids start punting their football into our house. I'm trying to work in my studio at this time and start getting irritated with the punting and running of their mouths, so I head out, and, rather calmly, ask to speak to their mother about the situation and try to convince them to see it from the landlord's perspective. Oh no, that is not the way to do that. The discussion was brief, and when I thought that she had understood, she starts running her mouth claiming that the kids won't get hurt or damage the property. And that's when I start needing to fight the urge to cuss her out. I tell her off the numerous times the kids have kicked or thrown a ball against the house, and explain that the kids will be kids and that they're prone to injury, having been a very clumsy and injury-prone kid myself. She continues to argue, and this is where I let her have it. I call her out for not enforcing the strict instructions that even the police have backed us up on, and sitting on her porch smoking weed or fighting with her husband, which can be heard throughout the neighborhood, instead of enforcing a simple rule to stay off our property. So Reddit, am I the asshole for calling her out like that? Verdict, asshole. Judgment, you're the asshole's 56%, not the asshole's 30%, and everyone sucks here is 12%. I honestly have no idea what to think on this one, because, in principle, I understand where the logic is coming from of liability. But the phrase of, think of it from the landlord's perspective, is something I've never once heard before, and something I never want to hear again. There are so many back and forth moving parts on this one that I'm really just left with a simple opinion of, if it's this big of a deal to the landlord, because think of how the landlord feels, build a fence! Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Am I the asshole for shouting at my husband for letting my sister-in-law take our baby out without telling me? My sister-in-law, 23 female, lives in the same building and has taken our 4-month-old baby for an hour at a time a few times. He's usually within hearing distance, so if anything goes wrong, I can get there quickly. Yesterday, I, 30 female, had an appointment and left the baby with my husband, 35 male. When I came back, I found out the baby was gone, and my husband told me my sister-in-law had taken him to run errands with her. I panicked and told him I wasn't comfortable with it. He then explained, but then shouted at me because I wouldn't let it go. So I started shouting at him back. He said I wouldn't have seen my phone during the appointment and thought it was fine since she's looked after the baby before. I swore at him as he got angry back at me. But I was just panicking because she doesn't have much experience with babies and she's only looked after him indoors so far. For context, she's joked before about things like wanting to throw water in the face when he cries and gets offended if he cries with her. But he's just a baby and this made me uncomfortable. Sometimes she'll also take him out of my hands while I'm holding him without asking me, which annoys me. Am I the asshole for losing my temper? So this post has a lot of context in the comments. The initial judgment was not the asshole. The total distribution was 49% not the asshole, 37% you're the asshole, 8% everyone sucks here, 3% no assholes here, and 1% requiring more info. And again, this is the distribution of the comments. So I did a little bit of perusing in the comments to see what I could find for additional context or just to get the general vibe of things because of the distribution of not the asshole and you're the asshole being so close. And it's interesting, to say the least. First comment from Mafab74. Not the asshole. Do they not get that it's COVID, flu, and RSV season? I've had 2 friends with infants in the ICU with RSV because their older kiddos brought it home from school. I've never let anyone take a young infant out of the home at this time of year without both parents feeling safe with them. Silent Phoenix 2513 responds, my friend's baby died from RSV at 4 months old. I definitely would not chance it. Another comment from Full Disc 7249. These comments are definitely murdering me? ? No, you're not the asshole. People keep saying that the husband gets to make decisions as well. And I think that's obvious based on what OP said. She just wanted to be clued in on where her literal child would be before it happened. This is obviously a mistake of not communicating. I don't understand why so many of you are painting it out that OP is this overbearing person who needs to always be the last say in what happens with her child. When it sounds like she was rightfully panicked that she came home to her child being gone when that panic could have been alleviated with a simple text message or call. Also, about her losing her temper, I hope you're holding the same behavior to the husband who quite literally yelled at her first. And I don't want to hear any of that, okay, but you're an adult. So, does that warrant being yelled at by your partner? I don't think so. I wouldn't be comfortable having my child around somebody who would casually make comments like that about a baby either, OP. Clearly, the vast majority of people in these comments are deranged and did not take the time to read your post. The solution is to have a conversation with your partner about why this situation made you uncomfortable, how you don't feel okay with him not communicating something truly dire before continuing with his actions, and if you want to, you can apologize for yelling. You probably should, and so should he. I chose those 2 comments because their reasonings are mostly independent from the points that are about to be made by these next comments. Understanding Abel 194. Not the asshole for losing your temper this time, but why the fuck would you still give this person access after they joked about waterboarding your 4-month-old? You know he can't tell you what she does to him when they're alone, right? Protect your child, please. She saw witch. Comments. Right? Like, what the fuck? This person shouldn't be watching your child. Commenter Noah Simon 5538 responds, OP failed to mention 2 really vital things in that opening post. That her husband was working from home when this happened, and that he was completely unaware of his sister's comments / OP's concerns about sister-in-law being alone with the baby. No Sign Says No responds, that's beyond vital. That completely and utterly recontextualizes the entire post. Without those details, why the fuck wouldn't he trust his sister? Opposed in a different thread from No Assignment where he was informed of this. The question is OP's husband aware of sister-in-law's comments? Has she said these things around him? Has OP calmly and rationally, i.e. not in the heat of a screaming argument, explained these things and why she doesn't want sister-in-law having alone time with the baby? Because if husband doesn't have any of this context, then he probably thinks that OP is being an irrational, overprotective mom who just dislikes his sister or resents her or something. User This Will Age Well responds to this comment. OP's husband was not aware. OP clarified that in a comment. She never told her husband what sister-in-law said. I agree with Soccer Problem 3547. I don't think OP took sister-in-law's remarks seriously at the time. If she had, she'd have told her husband and said, I don't want sister-in-law taking care of our baby again. I have absolutely no idea what sister-in-law meant by her remark. As a joke as it stands, it's not at all funny. But I'm prepared to believe that there's some context or nuance to it that we haven't been told. The vibe I'm getting from OP's post is that sister-in-law annoys her, so to justify her screaming match with her husband yesterday, she's dredging up everything sister-in-law ever said or did. I do not know what sister-in-law's side of the story would be if she were here, but it might be enlightening. So, my opinion here is that appointment or not, I think the husband should have at least sent her a text message, even if she wouldn't have seen it. So that way she wouldn't be coming home and being like, hey, where's our kid? I think that's fairly reasonable to want updates as to the location of where your child is if it's going to be somewhere else than where it was anticipated. I also do think it is fair for the husband to seek out assistance with childcare while he is working, as during that he may not be able to give his undivided attention to the infant. He still, most certainly, should have at least informed his wife of what his intentions were. I also believe that there are other reasons beyond just what the sister-in-law has stated about her quote-unquote jokes for OP to be upset about the child being taken out of the home. For starters, as OP did state, she's uncomfortable with the idea that the child is being taken out of the home and taken into a public environment where she has no experience doing so. This brings up so many questions. Was she using a car seat? Did the husband install the car seat? Did she install the car seat? Was the car seat installed properly? Is the baby going to get sick? What kind of complications could be derived from those illnesses? It is peak flu season after all. And questioning the sister-in-law's experience to taking care of the kid indoors versus taking care of the kid outdoors is definitely one to at least be concerned about. And yes, the baby is 4 months old and the mother probably doesn't have that much more experience, but it is potentially upwards to 4 months of more experience than the sister-in-law has. There's also the potential that she's hormonal and postpartum. But this does get into the weird factor that some comments did bring up of the whole comments of sister-in-law being brought up as reasons why instead of the more honest ones, and it does kind of let some credence that there might be other factors at play here that we're not fully aware of, some missing reasons being thrown in, especially with the fight that she had with her husband. There are a lot of details missing there, not gonna lie. So with that, I think I land in the everyone sucks here category, just because of all the information we have. I think that they just really need to sit down and communicate and talk with each other about what they are or are not comfortable with and draw boundaries moving forward, especially with the care for their child. They are new parents, they've only been at this for 4 months, and mistakes are bound to be made. This is one of them. But this is an opportunity to communicate and make sure these mistakes don't occur in the future. But let me know in the comments here if I'm completely off base, because after all, I am not a parent. And I am 100% approaching this from a vibe-based approach here. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code ODDS at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.